Well, thank you, Mr. Tamba, for the consideration and withdrawal of that statement. I would never, ever consider, let alone suggest, that the armed force that is responsible for me sleeping at night, that is responsible for ensuring the protection of the entire country, I would never suggest that they are mediocre.
Sojar kundal men ya lonko itolle molde men ya lonko suto tili somandawra itolle marlin na tankoni na kantola nyimbanku kanko itolle molde men ya lonko makamul ka dilal men ya lonko ma londo nyi soto ngaw ko moni ngajola nana tafala.
No, I did not say that.
Okay.
I think there is a misinterpretation.
Yes, come again.
I said
Council ko
I would never ever I would never say that the armed force that is responsible for ensuring that I sleep at night so I would never say that those people are mediocre. I never suggested that. And I would never think that. If there is anything, myself and everybody else in this country should be thankful to the armed forces and all members of the security services for the service they are rendering to this country, because it is one of sacrifice, and for that we should all be grateful. And I am particularly grateful to them. And I would never say or suggest anything to put them at a very low level. I never would do that. So, Mr. Tamba, we are on the same wavelength, I suppose.
Mr. Tamba,
Council, certainly we are on the same wavelength.
Thank you very much. So we move on. The question I asked you before the break was for your opinion as to whether or not you think there were promotions in the army that were not based on merit. I am not talking about your own time. I am talking about in general. If you do not believe that there were any irregularities, just say no, you did not believe, and we move on. Thank you.
Council, to the best of my ability,
Council ko katabula ntela lodula nano
all promotions in the armed forces, Gambia armed forces,
plus lafalu be Gambia la sojar bundala
were based on merits,
abebe laring lodula kendol le kang,
based on recommendations
ando abebe laring yamari kendol le fanan kang
from the various services,
menu bota do ku bunda nyaton ko
the battalions to the service chiefs,
abo battalion karola kata fanna nyaton ko la karola
my level.
However,
there were promotions that were sanctioned by the Commander-in-Chief, which I may not have control over.
Precisely the point, you do not have control over them.
We have
gone over this before. Your opinion is that he exercised his discretion,
and
therefore all of them were based on merit, as he saw it.
Correct, Council.
Well, Council.
But do you also appreciate that even though he may have seen those people as deserving, there could have been other considerations apart from merit?
Council, in my own view,
Council,
those particular soldiers in question, they were working directly under him at the State House. So I will not be in a position to ascertain those promotions.
So in a sense, you are saying you do not know whether those promotions were based on merit.
Yes, you are right. However, as the commander-in-chief, I know that he is invested with powers to promote those he feels are deserving.
Yes, we have all agreed to that. That was not, in fact, the issue. The issue was basically the fact that you do not know whether all those promotions were based on merit.
Yes, Council, you are right.
Thank you very much. Let's now go to your time at State House in 1994.
State House 1994.
You told us that after some selection process, you were deployed to State House. What position did you hold when you were first deployed to State House?
I was the third in command. Responsible for the physical guards. That is those that wear uniform. Because we have the plain clothes as well. But the physical guards, the uniform men, they fall under my immediate command.
Who was responsible for those who would not wear uniforms?
At one particular time, the second in command was then Captain Dembanjai, was responsible for the plain clothes. And he was the second in command. He was next to the commander too.
As at this time, the gendarmerie had changed from being gendarmerie after the departure of the Senegalese to the TSG. Could you tell us briefly about that, because we want to understand what necessitated that change and how it affected the security apparatus in this country?
Council, following the disintegration of the Confederation,
Council bring Confederation on Janjanta.
And then the gendarmerie command was on its own.
La Kango Bunda evaluating a fire.
Government came with a paper to restructure the gendarmerie by changing the name as well, using the name Tactical Support Group.
Tactical support group
or tactical support unit.
Tactical support unit.
Why do you think it was necessary to change the name?
Because the word gendarmerie was a French word. And because the confederation was no more there, and it was the Senegalese that helped us to constitute that gendarmerie. And hence they already left at the time. Then the authorities decided to change the name from gendarmerie to tactical support unit. Tactical support group. Whereby some personnel of the former gendarmerie were sent to the police. Some were sent to the army. And those that remain adopted the name Tactical Support Group.
Tactical Support Group.
We have received evidence suggesting that the Nigerians who are then in charge of the army, in fact, supported or advocated the disbanding of the gendarmerie.
Nigeria no menu yalonko wol fana ben janne wolle ketam wol menu yalonko e de maroke nyim falin droto min ka gendarmerie bondi
because it is not traditional for English speaking country to have a gendarmerie operating in its territory.
Katuma manke adu tilino de kuru banko me yalonko ka tubabu kangole fa pour que gendarmerie to soto ila tundo ka mbati ila banko ka.
What is your view on this?
Munete la mi miroloti wo kumota.
Council, I am of the view that that may not be true. The Nigerians were here supposedly to train the army. So when it comes to policy matters, I want to believe that they don't have any say in that.
Your belief is they ought not to have any say on that, correct?
In the disbanding of the gendarmerie, yes.
But in reality, do you or do you not know whether they recommended to the president to disband the gendarmerie?
Until I was a junior officer, a lieutenant for that matter. I may not be privy to that kind of information.
Thank you very much. That's a very honest answer. So, is it true that there was this rivalry between the gendarmerie and the Gambia National Army?
Yes, Council, there was.
Can you tell us, in your view, how that rivalry has affected the relationship between the two forces?
During
that time.
Council, to my knowledge, the army personnel, they felt that the word gendarmerie was a francophone word. And to the extent that they felt that they were more trained than the gendarmerie personnel. And all that was out of ignorance. Because when it comes to the officer corps, Those that go outside the country to attend to gendarmerie courses, they had the opportunity to have training in both military and their profession in the gendarmerie. So it was a misconception.
But equally, the gendarmerie also considered themselves as an elite force and superior to the other forces, especially the police. Is that true?
Yes, Council, that was true simply because, like I highlighted, the gendarmerie felt that they have two types of training: the military and the professional training. So probably that was why they felt that they were more superior than the police.
And what was the impact of these different conceptions and beliefs on the security apparatus in this country? So the interrelationship between the various forces.
Council, operationally, it created a lot of problems, because whenever we meet in the theater of operation, the gendarmerie will feel more superior than the police. And because that is human, it created a lot of misconception and problems. The same as the gendarmerie and the army. Because going by the French setup of gendarmerie, the ideology we had here at that time was the gendarmerie was more powerful than the army and the police. That created some lot of misconceptions.
Why was it believed that the gendarmerie had more power than the army and the police?
The reason is very simple. Like I said earlier, the gendarmerie are trained in both police duties as well as the military duties. So that made them to feel that they were more superior than the others.
As at the time the TSG was created, they were given the responsibility of protecting the president and sensitive installations. Did that have an impact on the army itself?
Certainly, Council. The same misconception kept lingering in their minds. So certainly, those who were with the president, guarding the president, certainly is human. That they feel that they were more superior than the others. But usually it is at the lower cadre. But at the officer corps, that kind of situation was never experienced.
There came a time when the more sophisticated weapons of the gendarmerie were moved from the gendarmerie to the army. Could you comment about that?
Council, that is a fact. But those are political decisions. That comes from the higher level. That probably it depends on what kind of advice the president at that time was giving. Because at that time we had what we used to call security advisor to the president. Who was a Nigerian by nationality. So in most cases of this nature, he plays a very important role as far as advising the president.
Do you recall the name of the person, the national security advisor at the time?
Omari nyimenga president yamar nung tanko ning kanta da bunda banko kan fo isato hakilo sato mutanole bang.
Ansul, I can't remember the name. It was a foreign name, so I can't remember.
Ansul hakilo ta mutanola katu luntan tolem.
Fair enough. But what impact did the removal of these weapons from the hands of the gendarmerie and placing them in the hands of the army, what impact did that have on the men and officers of the gendarmerie?
Inkuwa anarna munkole ya kodel sabu molla meno ya lonko be do kola gendarmerie le koto kelen kidi jawolta ka bondi bulol kono kadi sojar kunda ngol anarna munkole ya kodel sabu gendarmerie do kulalla.
Council, the impact on the morale of the men was very damaging.
Council, we ko men sabu moluma men ya lonko wolle be gendarmerie wotumo aketa tinyar baleti.
Because what makes a soldier to be proud
adu men ka sojaro nganyandi afanna
is the type of armament he has.
Wole munjoram fason ne bate bulu.
But once you disarm him, because taking the sophisticated weapons and giving him the less heavier weapons, then all of a sudden, we saw vehicles driving out of the State House. And was told that Sadauda was, in that American ambassador vehicle. During that time, the Americans, they had their naval ship in the country that docked at our Navy base around the ports. They were here to conduct an exercise with our own army.
Ulinata numulela nunjang, ulinata le puru ye bakono sojarul ni sojari kotoboke inina banko sojarul.
Then my boss, Captain Lamin Bajo, on hearing the news that Sadauda left to the naval ship,
he followed
him to the ship. But before leaving, he told me that he will get in touch with me for further directives. But because there was no mobile phone in the Gambia at that time, so the communication was difficult between us.
Would you say that Kababajo traveled with them on the same convoy, or he left State House later?
After
they left, Kaba followed them.
Because
he wanted to know where Sadauda was heading to. But after they reached the American Navy ship, then later Kaba was able to return back to the State House. And he came to see what kind of plan I had implemented. After that, he told me that he was going back to the American ship to see Sadauda, whether he was okay.
At this stage, did you know where the coupists were?
That time we are having conflicting reports.
Kato tembo nka kibaro lumenu soto imanke kibaro lorinti ka kibaro lukato falim nale.
Some were saying that they have overrun Fajara barracks.
Uluba fo kanko ye Fajara sojar korjar nyin tale fo kapare.
But at the time, Fajara barracks deployed some men at the bridge, at Denton Bridge.
So
we kept monitoring the situation. And Kababajo returned back to the ship where Sadauda was. So we kept receiving reports that they were getting close to Denton Bridge.
And did
you at any point in time leave State House to venture outside to see what was happening?
Oh, what na sort of banka ite kundun ka finti State House masara korda baro ka finti banda ka jube ka korosi ka long mune be kerin ba.
Council, as the commander on the ground at the time, I could not leave the State House to go and venture to see where the situation was. I relied on the team, the group that was at Denton Bridge, because they were from Fajara Barracks. In a sense, they were our parent unit. So there was no need for me to go up to Denton Bridge or elsewhere to see the situation. I could fully rely on them. So my role was to secure the State House. And there I stayed.
What type of weapons did you have to defend State House at the time?
Council, I want to say here that that was the biggest mistake of the regime at that time.
Council left fola jansa inko mansakunda membe siri nuotumo wokete filibante ya baleti nuotumo.
I can say most of the sophisticated weapons were sent to the army in Yundum.
Katu msinyim foko kele joran sangaro la sobe malu otumo yewlubeki sojaro le otumo Yundum.
So at the presidential guards we had only 2 machine guns.
Between president kantar sojaro le otumo machine gun fula doron ne bentolo bulu.
And the rest were small rifles, AK-47s.
Adunga tobe kidi fasongolo men betelo bulu mo nyin kidi ndingol leti nyin AK-47 kidolo.
Did you have any mortars?
O kidol be bulle bay kaf me mortars.
Council, we never had any mortar there.
Council, pesa man soton tol bulu otumo. Peso ka fo me mortar ntelo mo dodo soton nu otumo.
Subsequently, the coupists would arrive at around State House.
Could
you tell us about it? We want to know what was happening at the 2 points of attack or 2 points of arrival.
Leftalo na utumo nyilu kudeta lalo ye dumfulo me ye silafulo lumenu tanam purka dunang banyunu kana hanfo State House leftalo na utumo wukulu tamata nyadile.
Council, they approached the State House in 2 groups.
Council ifintita na State House kan fanna fulalela.
One of the group was led by Edward Singate.
Edward Singate le yolu nyaton kaya.
From which direction?
He came through Independence Drive.
Well, not an Independence Drive silolela.
To the Makati Square from the market end.
Kana Makati Square by ba ma fangola banyunu marse o ma fangola kaduna wotola.
Coming up to close to the entrance to the former Ministry of Health, their warehouses.
Kana Minister Bunda Nunto, Minister Bunda be matajata kendeala. Ilaw manga sino liwo bumbalu benun dame ma fangola.
Where they used to issue birth certificates.
Tumo wotumo ka wulu kaytolu diwo bungo kordale kono je.
And he stopped there with his team.
Nala kafomo lulota jele.
Then at the State House, the other side, that is the Marina Gate.
Yo, State House la koma silo nyi memu Marina Bunda nyi ma fangolati.
I got reports from the officer who was assigned there, that is Lieutenant Sonko.
Utumo Lieutenant Sonko wole marta wo koma bunda la ngakibarolu soto atele bulu nunko.
We have several Lieutenant Sonkos in the past. Which one are you referring to?
Lieutenant Sonko Jamal del Soto.
Actually, not Usman Sonko. I can't remember the name. It's from Nyomi N.
Hakilo bota amari tola baramanke Usman Sonko today bare afanang nyimari fanamu Nyomi Nkolti.
Where is he?
Ale?
He is late now, I understand. He was in the UK and later he is late.
Amari sainde nga kibaro sotoka afatale. Wati sotonta atata United Kingdom atata UK barbitun sai nga mwe ka afatale.
Proceed, please.
He also reported citing the former president Yahya Jammeh with his group.
Atafana yin kibaro dinna ko ho anyaye mojele melne ne keta president to jannu tumo ikafa Yahya Jammeh anala kafomolu.
On the main road, just around social welfare offices there.
Silaba nyinkan social welfare law silaba ma fangola je.
So when Edward arrived with his team at the point I did mention just now,
biring Edward na la muolu futata dinkirato ngadame mfoten sai.
He shouted that he needed to speak to the authorities.
I awurita nyine kan ay nyimfo asanto awurita ko alafta diamula nyaton ko liemenu beje otumo.
At the time, I was with few of my personnel around the guard room. Because already I've deployed most of the men over the perimeter of fence of the State House.
Do you know a soldier called Sam Kambai?
Yes,
I know Sam Kambai.
Was he deployed at State House at that time?
For what State House level?
Council, I wouldn't remember whether he was at the State House at the time.
State House.
Proceed, please.
So at that moment where I was, I could see through the main gate towards the market end. I could see Edward kneeling down with his RPG, aiming it at the main entrance.
Edward haina be nyoiringa kumbalingo kang anala RPG wole mu kidoti meya lonko akanyim bulukono peso fai.
At the time where I was with at the time he was a staff sergeant, I believe, Ensa Tamba.
Tembo nimmo benyo kanje ngamira utumo staff sergeant ole mati ikafai Ensa Tamba.
Where is he now, Ensa Tamba?
Ensa Tamba ale sainte.
He's a full colonel now at the Armed Forces headquarters.
Then
I was there with Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara.
Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara fanambiji.
I think he was also a Staff Sergeant, or probably, or W2 Musa Jammeh.
Staff Sergeant W02 Musa Jammeh.
So all of us were together around the guard room end. So when Edward shouted that he needed to see the authorities, I then briefed Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara that he could go to Edward and get whatever message he has.
Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara lako. Ite sitano ening Edward Yediamu alafta kumakang wo kumakang fole ite tayo kumakang tabulu inaina.
Because in such situations you have to sacrifice one of your men that you will use as a runner.
Tatu tembo na koleata fuela mo kilim bondi me ya lonko e batele bondi la purata eke kilati ka ku fasong lutamandi.
We will be carrying messages front and back.
Membe kare kibaro lunatila aninka kibaro lu samba.
So when he returned,
delivered
a message from Edward Singate.
Edward Singate la kibaro natin tolukang
that he wanted to see Sadauda.
So alafta Sadauda le jela.
I also gave him a message back to Edward.
Ngabaringa kibaro do dia la kote ke praya murundi Edward kang
that Sadauda was not around.
Ko ka fa Sadauda tijang.
So we continued exchanging messages front and back between me and Edward.
Continue wonyale ka kibaro kinyoye tanin na antening Edward.
And within that moment, I can see a lot of men were arriving at Edward's location. I made a thorough assessment of the situation. And I heard reports that those at the bridge have reunited with them.
Wulu ninyi sojaro lu kafuta nyomale de amunta menu nata ke taraji ibe kafuta nyomale sila kafu kilimuti.
What convinced me that it was true, I saw one of the officers, Lieutenant Bineminte, who was at the bridge.
Mune nata ntesondi konyi muto nyaleti de nyeli kafuta nyomale nata mojije wotumo memfanga benu nsaloto ikafa Lieutenant Bineminte ngo fananje sila benyi molu kono.
He was with Edward's team.
Atebe kafuring Edward la kafo molle mawtumo.
Lieutenant Bineminte, which force did he belong to?
In Lieutenant Bineminte be menna bonta abtabe na tanko bunda fanna jumalto.
TSU. He belongs to the TSU.
Atebe nun TSU le wotumo.
TSU or TSG?
TSG.
TSG.
So he was on your side?
Before, yes.
Followed.
And he turned coat to join the other side?
Later I saw him with the opposing force.
Was he the only member of the TSG you saw with Edward's group?
There were many, because I could see their headdress. Because the army, they were using green. So the bearers were different from that of the TSG.
So how did you react when you saw that?
So when I saw that, and also I got reports from the #1 Marina Gate N. The officer I posted there was reporting to me also about the situation there. So being the most senior on the ground, after carrying the thorough assessment, I got my senior men who were on the ground with me. I shared the intelligence I received about the situation on the ground. And now it was left to me as the commander on the ground to take a decision.
At this stage, were your gates breached or they were not breached?
Council, the gates, both main gate and the Marina gate, were intact.
At
this stage, have you directly spoken to any one of the leaders that were approaching State House from both ends?
Fokabuda wotembola fo wati na sort of delaba idia muta nyaton kola menu yalon ko bina kanka State House ka boyinkan ni fanna fulol bela.
Council, those were enemy forces.
Council wolmu jawol letinu wotembo.
So there was no way I could speak to them. And at that time there was no mobile telephone. So there was no communication, radio communication that I could speak with them at the opposing force. That was why I sent Staff Sergeant Bakari Kama to be going front and back, talking to Edward and coming back and bringing messages to me. Staff Sergeant Bakari Kama
it's our responsibility to bring out the evidence and get your reaction to the evidence. We've been told by one of your superiors at the time that when the group arrived at Atlantic Hotel, Yaya Jammeh placed a call to you at State House and spoke to you in Jola, and you agreed to open the gate. What's your reaction to that?
Wa kabri ya jamena la kafo mol nada ka State House ka waling aye kumandi kabri nga ye kumandi pour ye bunda nyi yele ina diam da kanno me alon ko jola kan wala pour ite bunda yele e be yemone so be men fula woto
Council, that was false.
Council, womanke kuma soto ringoti.
There has never been any communication between me and Yaya Jammeh at that time.
Wotembo, kuma nene man soto nteni Yaya Jammeh diamo menke wotembo.
Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara, who is a captain now.
Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara, memu captain oti saying.
Colonel Esa Tamba.
Colonel Esa Tamba.
And the late Musa Jammeh.
Nintala Musa Jammeh.
They were all with me around the guard room end, facing the main gate towards hospital, towards July 22nd end.
Ulbe nintebe lori nyokan na kantar bunda laje guard room. So bebe jele be ya sede alembe lori nyabe tilinding makati square ma fangola utumo.
At that time, like I said, there was no mobile communication. And I never left that position.
You told the commission that you made your assessment of the situation. Tell us what elements you considered in making your assessment and what was the conclusion or decision you took.
Fonya sila mbirite la korosiro nyimbe ga be kafunyoma ya jube muna natana ke sabati sondo mo kono ko kul nyimbe lari nu nyame o wato.
Okay, the elements I took into consideration before making my decision.
To ngakulu menu jube kulu be lari nyame jannimbe na kangolondila.
Because from the point where Edward was stationed with his personnel,
Katu Edward nala molu be ma fango menna wolu be lori ndamento.
I could see some of the armaments they were having.
Of
course, they had very sophisticated machine guns. They had these RPGs, rocket-propelled grenade launchers. I could see mortars. And a lot of other sophisticated weapons. And that reminded me about those weapons that were transferred to the army. So it gave me a view that we will not be able to sustain the firepower. At that moment, we were in an enclosure. That is the State House. And one of the assessments I put into account, they were getting more men coming to reinforce them. And we could not have that opportunity to get reinforcements coming. And the unfortunate incident was we had our armory at the Old Atlantic, if you understand the Old Atlantic, before the Atlantic Hotel. It was rounded and taken over.
Do you know a person called Alaji Gay? He served at the State House at the time.
You more told on the way of me Alaji Gay and I get a mold me along by the State House, Mansala Corravado or Watola.
Yes, Council. He was one of the bodyguards, the plain clothes.
Yes, Council. At a bemol economy, Balama Cantarlalti, but Menubuka uniform doom.
He suggested that all the arms you had in the armory were taken out to mount a defense.
What do you
say to that?
Council, he might have made a mistake. Because I was the one coordinating the operations. The arms he was referring to were the ones we had overnight during our standby. But when the mutineers were advancing to the State House, they came very fast. Arrived very fast. Because there was no force on the way that could deter their movement. Like I earlier stated, even the TSG guys who were at the bridge, surrendered quickly and joined hands with them. And that was how they were able to reach Banjul within a very short period.
So proceed to your decision.
So, like I said, they rounded up our armory. And the weapons that were left there were taken away. Because that was where we have our outrider section. They were based there at All Atlantic. So they were responsible for the security of our armory as well. But when they were overcome, that's how they accessed our armory and took away the arms. So, like I said, after the negotiations, so it was up to me as the commander on the ground to take a decisive decision. One, whether to engage them in a battle, and eventually what will end up happening, they will overpower us because they have more sophisticated weapons, and they will have reinforcement coming, and they can have replenishment of more ammunition coming. We will not be in that position. Once we run out of ammunition, it is like me sacrificing my men, to have them killed. Because in that situation, there is no way they could spare my men if they overcome us. Because maybe probably during the exchange of fire, they might sustain casualties as well. And if they overpower us, then the same will be extended to my men. So I took a decisive decision that after calling those people I mentioned and giving them the situation report, I suggested to them that now that the president whom we were protecting, we were guarding, he is in the American ship and they have left. They are sailing out of our Gambian waters. And we should fight. And that we should fight a war that we are hopeful of winning. And I instructed that. I am instructing that let them open the gates and allow them to come in. I had, during the course of my service with the UN in Sierra Leone, I could see the Kenyan battalion. We are fully armed. We have been deployed to certain other parts of Sierra Leone. But a platoon strength, which was about 30 men, were able to disarm a whole company. Probably, Chairman, you might have heard about that incident in Sierra Leone during the war. So if you look at the decision I took, was to save my personnel. And that the president was already secured, he has left. So I instructed that they should open the gate. It started with the main gate where Edward was. And Edward with his team were the first to come in after we accepted to open the gates. When he came, he met me at the guard room end where I was standing. And he explained their mission to me. But all this time, President Yahya Jammeh was around the Marina Parade at his same position. So until I gave instruction at the Marina gate for them to open that gate too, that was how he also entered.
Mr. Tamba, is it the case that among your men who opened the Makati Square gate end was Musa Jammeh, correct?
Mr. Tamba said for ido kunyol kono abel kono many bunda banye Marina Parade bunda banye ko
Edward be
Makati Square
bunda banye abel kono Musa Jammeh.
Council, like I stated myself, Musa, Warrant Officer Tamba and Kamara, we were together at the time when I was taking the decision.
Council konga fono nyamente Warrant Officer Tamba, Musa Jammeh, ntelebe nyoka nungo tembo watu membe nyinkangotala.
So I instructed Musa, of course, to walk to the gate and pass the message to the soldiers who were there. So Musa did not open the gate on his own will, but through my orders.
Yes. I asked this question because we've heard a lot of stories. We want to get it right.
Yes.
You have given this example of Kenyan forces being disarmed by a band of rebels in UNAMSEL. It first started with the Indian troops, that was in 1998.
Yeah.
But they were disarmed, not because they were unable to fight, but because they were not mandated to fight. They were given a Chapter 6.5 resolution, a Chinese Chapter 7.
Yes, you are right. I was in Sierra Leone at the time, Council. But because maybe they felt that the rebels were more armed than them.
Mr. Tamba, I participated in writing the resolution. So we knew the reason why those people were liable. In fact, they were rendered impotent by our disagreement at this council of not adding a half to the resolution from Chapter 6 to Chapter 7. But that's for another day.
Yeah.
Your position is that you believe that you were unable to fight.
Right, Council.
Let's take it first a step backwards and we would come back to this. A defense was mounted at the bridge.
Correct.
Do you believe that
Council, that defense that was mounted at the bridge could not counter this force because they were poorly armed compared to the advancing troops.
Council womolu menu be salo kanje wulutenyin balanna londino le te kuntuno le nyato katu jorangolu membe nyimmolu bulu menu be salo kan sojarolu menu ba kanna wolle la jorangolu forte ta.
I am not a military expert and I can never pretend to be one. But we received evidence suggesting that Edwards was threatening to blow the bridge. Don't you think that if that threat would have been executed, you would have had the best defense?
That may not be the best defense, Council. If he had blown the bridge, what capabilities he had, if the bridge is blown and they have taken over the bridge, they can still use the boats, the fishing boats. If you know Denton Bridge as it is, we have a lot of boats at the other side of the bridge. So even if the bridge was blown, they could use those bridges.
With regards to your case at the State House. We were told that the weapons that you had and the strategic nature of some of the points there you would have been in a position to defend State House if you wanted to. I know that you have partly answered this question. So we should not spend too much time on it. But I ask you to react to that suggestion. What do you say?
Council, in order to have a very strong defensive position, the kind of weapons you have matters. And that was why I said the advancing force was more heavily armed than us. And I have said that they captured our armory, whereby if we needed more ammunition, we will not be able to have that. So in that case, if that happens, it's like, exposing my men to all kinds of treatment. Because if you're fighting with somebody and you run out of ammunition, that you will be at the person's mercy. Because what else can you do? You just surrender yourself, and maybe that time my men would have killed some of their friendly forces. And so that is why it is believed that in certain situations, if I were to report to my commander elsewhere, usually that commander will refer back the decision to you, the commander on the ground. Because sometimes it's the situation on the ground that dictates your next action. To
cut it short, Mr. Tamba, your suggestion is that your assessment of the situation required that in order to save your men, you surrender and open the State House gates. That's your position.
Correct.
In a sense, you are saying that your decision to open the gates is not based on some conversation you had in Jola with Yaya Jammeh.
You are right, Council, because like I said, there was no means of communication between me and Yaya Jammeh. If my intention was to communicate with Yaya Jammeh, I could have sent my runner to that side of where Yaya Jammeh was, bring message or information from Yaya Jammeh to me. But instead, my first contact was with Edward. And when I gave instructions for gates to be opened, Edward's side was the first area I gave instruction for that gate to be opened. Until Edward came in with his troops. It was later I gave instruction from the Marina Gate M.
I think we can end it here at this point, and then we come back after lunch.
Thank you. So, to summarize the well, Edward and his group confronted you at the gate. You were outmanned, you were outgunned, and you surrendered.
Munta chairman ko Edward nala molu brief data retired General Tamba nala molu ma State House. Amunta mem fintita je wole nala molu la jorangulu forta General Tamba nala molu ti andu Edward nala molu itelle yirko fanan siata General Tamba nala molu.
I'll ask this quick question. I don't want to wait until the end of your testimony to do it. But when the Vice President and the American ambassador went in Denmark to see President Jawara, before that, you and Lamin Kababajo, you said, had plans to defend State House. What plan did you have exactly? Just very briefly. What was it that you wanted to do, especially to secure the president?
American ambassador ning Vice President Sehu Sabali be nyokanje nung fo janni be futala President Jawarama wotembo itani la mol yenyum foko aliyefero soto le pour alpareta State House tankandi la nyaming wotembo itani la mol Allah tankandi silo alafta num munekela nung pour dinkira la tankada janning President Jawara ning mu American ambassador ning Sehu Sabali be bolaji.
Thank you very much, Chairman. The plan we did was we deployed the troops we had on the ground all over the perimeter fence of the State House.
The State House State House
manning all the strategic positions. We did that simply so that at a particular stage maybe we could get reinforcement. And our hope of reinforcement was to be from Bakau. Because we and Bakau, Fajara Barracks, we belong to the same parent unit. And also, at the time, we didn't know the strength of the soldiers who are coming from Yundum in terms of their armament. Ntelumalo nyi sojaro lumembe bolana Yundum kana wolu nimmun joram façon lumen bina utumo mawolo manso biala. So we had to deploy our men so that we'll be ready for them. Utumo wale asabu ngana molu janjande purunsi pare ikamma. But in any situation, bari kuo kundi lanya kammala, situation can change. Depending on the environment. That was why when we noticed that they have more firepower than us, and they outnumber us. So after this assessment, you have to come up with another decision. And this is the way we are trained in the military. You have to take decisions based on the conditions, on the existing conditions at the time. And because of the existing conditions were not favorable to us, I wasn't prepared to sacrifice my men. So that led to that decision. Because if I had engaged them in a fight, we could not stop them from entering the State House.
Thank you, General. We will take a lunch break now and resume at 3 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.